Very esteemed members who have joined this one another webcast by the GST and Indirect Taxes Committee. The esteemed speaker, CA Nikhil Gupta ji, Impreet Kaur, who represents the committee secretariat here, the technical support people who are here with us to give a seamless feed that is required for this program. Friends, all of you are aware that the GST and Indirect Taxes Committee is conducting regular webinars and webcasts, apart from conferences, seminars being organized by the program organizing units for your benefit. We are glad today that we have CA Nikhil Gupta ji, who is a part of our committee. Friends, from the advent of GST itself, we have heard many instances of searches, stoppages of vehicles, inquiries, inspections, and everything. Now, this is something which cannot be stopped. But yes, with our tactful submissions, with the kind of knowledge which the committee imparts, you will be able to help your clients, you will be able to help, in fact, the government also in ensuring that the fair revenue is collected. Your committee is continuously organizing programs for the state governments, central governments, and all the stakeholders for on the subjects of GST. As on date, we have numerous MOUs signed with the state governments, with the central training arm that is NESTIN, and we also ensure that our publications are always the latest. I must compliment each and every one of you for giving us this motivation at all times and being here with us whenever we have these programs. Today's webcast is on the topic practical insights on search and seizures. Now, the concept of search and even in GST, you do have search and seizure, but at not that level which happens in income tax or may not be that worse also. But friends, to give a practical insight of all these things, we have very esteemed faculty. Midst of a council meeting which is organized in Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir, I will not be able to sit through the entire session. I seek your indulgence for this and I seek your permission to log out after our very esteemed Nikhil Gupta ji commences this session. Once again, thank you very much for motivating us. Warm welcome to CA Nikhil Gupta ji. Sincere thanks to you, sir, for spending your valuable hours for the benefit of our members, of our chartered accountants, of all of us here. Thank you very much. And over to you, Nikhil ji.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for your encouraging words. Most respected Chairman, GST and Direct Tax Committee, Rajan Kumar P. sir, under your guidance and your leadership, committee is performing extremely well, and the flagship publication background material that is in great demand. It is demanded by everybody, be it a businessman, be it from department, CGST, SGST, wherever I go, I am getting this demand. So much congratulations to you, sir. And I, CA Nikhil Gupta, part of GST and Direct Tax Committee, would like to thank all the members. First of all, I would like to thank Rajan sir for giving me this opportunity, wonderful opportunity, to present my views on search and seizure under GST with practical insights. Friends, as we all know, that searches are being conducted, and in such scenarios, what we see that everybody has to keep abreast with the law. Be it search is such a word that it creates stress, tremendous stress. It gives tremendous stress to taxpayer. And such concept of search and seizure, it is important for chartered accountants also, because law is changing every day. And in case of searches, we have high stake matters where chartered accountants have to keep their knowledge abreast, as well as for the department. Friends, search is not a mechanism to collect the revenue. However, it acts as a deterrent. Whenever a search is conducted, department comes with a motive that we will bust some scam, we will bust some modus operandi, and we have to collect tax and deter the wrongdoers. So, with these words, I would like to start my PPT, my presentation. And most importantly, I have tried to touch upon the practical scenarios, practical aspect which I have gone through, which I have seen in last so many years. So I seek your permission, Chairman Sir, to start my presentation. Friends, whenever a search is conducted, it has to be within the four corners of the law. As we all know, the Constitution of India, it guarantees us the practice. We can practice any profession or we can carry out any occupation, trade or business. So whenever there is a hindrance in conducting our business, it has to be within the four corners of the law. As we all know, search is an intrusive activity. And whenever department enters, at that time, the business that is going on, it comes to an halt. So the department has to keep this in mind that they have to follow the law while they are conducting any inspection, search, or seizure activities. Friends, now coming to jurisdiction, I would like to clarify that whenever we seek registration under GST, we are we come under jurisdiction of both central as well as state. However, for administrative convenience, we are assigned to any one of the department. But enforcement operation can be conducted by any department. For administrative purpose, we will be assigned to a state. But central team can conduct search, CGST can conduct search on a person who is assigned to a state and vice versa. Friends, DGGI has all India, they have all India jurisdiction. They can go anywhere. However, central and SGST department, they have limitation as per their geographical area. A person, a unit who is in Agra, which is situated in Agra, cannot be searched by a person, by a CGST team, which is in Mathura. In the same way, a person may have a unit in Agra, as well as Mathura, as well as Noida, as well as in Ghaziabad. Now, a joint commissioner of Agra cannot authorize a search for a unit which is situated in Mathura or Ghaziabad or Noida. So, jurisdiction issue has to be taken care of every time whenever a search is authorized. Now, coming to the main section. Friends, whenever an intrusive activity is initiated, there are multiple possibilities. There may be an inspection or straight away there may be a search. Inspection is treated as less intrusive in comparison to search. So wherever a joint commissioner of CGST or SGST, he has reason to believe that a taxable person, please bear in mind, I am using the word taxable person. You may be registered under GST law or not. It is immaterial. If a search team enters my premises, then I cannot have a plea that I am not registered under GST Act and you cannot conduct any search on me. For audit purpose, it is well applicable that for audit, only a registered person can be subject to audit. But for GST purpose, GST search purpose or inspection purpose, a taxable person, he has to be a taxable person, whether he is registered under GST law or not. Now, there are certain conditions. If he has suppressed any transactions related to supply of goods or services, or he has suppressed stock of goods in hand, or he has claimed ITC in excess of his entitlement, or he has indulged in contravention of any provisions of the rules made thereunder to evade tax, then inspection can occur, inspection can happen. As far as reasons to believe, we will discuss these reasons later on. Further, any person who is in the business of transportation of goods, or any owner or operator of a warehouse or godown, or any other place, is keeping goods in such a manner which have escaped payment of tax, or he is keeping his accounts in such a manner which is likely to cause evasion, then the Joint Commissioner may authorize INS 01, means it is a form where inspection is authorized. Now, inspection can be authorized for any place of business. Please bear in mind, a residence cannot be inspected. So, only a place of business can be authorized for inspection. So, I would like to give you a caution that never take registration, GST registration on your residence until you intend to do so. If you are taking registration on your residential address, you are allowing GST authorities to enter your house for inspection. So please bear in mind, just for the sake of convenience, that yes, okay, I have Aadhaar card, I have property tax receipt of residence, I have electricity bill of residence. So let's keep it as a main place of business, and we will add our factory as additional place of business whenever we feel. So this should not be the intention. A residence is a residence, and it cannot be a place of business until you intend to do so. If you are taking registration from your residence, you are allowing the team to enter your house. Now, coming to search and seizure. Friends, inspection, as I previously said, is a less intrusive activity, and their inspection of books, records, documents can be made. But team cannot open your almirah, they cannot break open your doors, they cannot seal your premises. This is not under inspection. However, if the Joint Commissioner or an officer above the rank of Joint Commissioner, he has reason to believe, pursuant to search or pursuant to inspection or otherwise, like if inspection has been carried out and pursuant to such inspection, there is a reason to believe that we need to convert this inspection in full scale search, then a search can be conducted. Or if Joint Commissioner or an officer above the rank of Joint Commissioner, they have reasons to believe beforehand that there are certain goods which are liable for confiscation, there are documents or books or things which in their opinion which are secreted in any place, and which in their opinion will be useful for any proceedings under the act, then a full scale search may be authorized. For example, if the Joint Commissioner or Additional Commissioner, he has reason to believe that there is an undisclosed godown, then instead of going for inspection, they may straight away authorize a search. And for example, if Joint Commissioner or officer above the rank, he has reason to believe that some stock which is liable for confiscation is at the registered place of business, then also they can initiate a search beforehand. It is not that first you have to go for inspection and then only you can go for search. It can be either ways, first inspection and then search, or straight away the team, if they feel that they have reasons to believe, then straight away search can be authorized. When it is not practical to seize the goods, first search will be conducted and then seizure will be made. Seizure can be made of goods which are liable for confiscation, or of any documents or books or things which in his opinion shall be useful for relevant or relevant to any proceedings under the act. They are secreted in any place, he may authorize the search. Coming to the word reasons to believe and secreted, friends, we will discuss in the ensuing slides. But after search has been conducted, seizure can be made of goods, of books, of documents, of things. And If the seizure is not possible, then prohibition order can be passed. A person who is being searched can be directed, can be ordered not to deal away with the goods, not to remove the goods until without the permission of the officers. Now, after search has been conducted and the process is going on, if the officer feels that there is a certain door which you are not permitting to open, there is an almirah, there is electronic device in which they suspect some goods, accounts register or documents are kept, and when permission is not denied to open such premises or almirah or electronic device or box or receptacle, then sealing as well as breaking open of such devices can be done. Friends, please bear in mind, sealing is not a routine activity. Even after search, sealing can be done only when permission is denied to enter the premises or permission is denied by the taxpayer to open the almirah or electronic devices or box or receptacle. Friends, a search occurred few days back, and when the team went to the business place, there was nothing, no documents, no records. However, there was only a servant sitting there, and he never denied any permission. Team could enter the premises easily. They stayed there for some time and they sealed the premises. Now, in my humble opinion, such action is not lawful because sealing can be done only when access is denied. For example, if we talk of any premises, there are 10 rooms in it and one room is locked. Taxpayer says that I don't have any keys for it. Then in that case, only that room can be sealed or door can be break open. However, entire premises should not be sealed. This is often a tool which is used by department to pressurize a taxpayer so that he may deposit some tax, he may deposit some penalty or interest by way of DRC 03. However, I have a strong opinion that sealing and breaking open can only be done when premises, when you are not allowed, when department is not allowed to enter the premises and permission is denied. You need form INS 01, which is as per rule 139 to initiate. In that only form INS 01, you get permission for inspection also, for search also, and form INS 02. That is the form used for seizure purpose. If the department feels, if the officer feels that it is not possible to take away the custody of the goods, then prohibition order can be passed and the person can be directed that he shall not remove or part away or otherwise deal with the goods without the previous permission of the officer. Friends, as we discussed, that a inspection can be converted into search. However, for that you need a separate authorization. You cannot continue under the same authorization. Search cannot be conducted on the authorization of inspection. In the same way, for each place of business, wherever the department intends to go for searching, they need separate INS. There cannot be a blanket INS that I authorize, Joint Commissioner is authorizing the team to inspect all the place of business of a particular taxpayer, or he cannot authorize to inspect and search all the place of business and all the place of residence of a particular taxpayer. Inspection can be done only of business premises. However, search can be conducted at business premises also, as well as at the residential place of business, as well as any other place of third party also, where the team thinks, where the department thinks that goods liable for confiscation may be there, or books, documents, or things which are useful for proceeding are secreted, then any place can be searched. However, for each place of business, you need a separate INS 01. We are very clear with that thought. Friends, a search has to be authorized by a proper officer and it has to be conducted by a proper officer. Circular 3 oblique 3 oblique 2017. It says that a proper officer is joint commissioner or an additional commissioner to initiate the search. It never mentions that commissioner or principal commissioner is a proper officer. So a search has to be initiated, it has to be authorized by a joint commissioner or an additional commissioner. Also, we have to keep in mind in one of the cases, what happened? The joint commissioner of a state authorized the deputy commissioner of the state to conduct the search. However, search was conducted by the assistant commissioner and CTOs. In the Panchnama, it was clearly mentioned that the assistant commissioner he conducted the search and joint commissioner was not even present there. So, in my humble opinion, this will vitiate the proceedings because only deputy commissioner was authorized to conduct the search. Friends, now coming to reasons to believe. Reasons to believe are for inspection also and for conducting search also. Reasons to believe have to be very strong. If reasons to believe are not present, then entire proceeding is vitiated. Entire proceedings goes to null. So reasons have to be there. But what are the reasons? What do you mean by reasons to believe? Section 26 of IPC and section 2 subsection 29 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. A person is said to have reasons to believe a thing if he has sufficient cause to believe that thing, but not otherwise. Friends, reason to believe is very important. It is separate from reason to suspect. Reason to suspect does not amount to reason to believe. You may suspect anything, but reason to believe is much above than reason to suspect and certainly less than evidences in hand. So when you have adequate reasons to believe, means you have some material in hand on the basis of which you think that inspection is necessary or search is necessary. Only in that case, inspection or search can be authorized. And reasons must be pre-recorded. It is not that first you choose a taxpayer that we will conduct a search on this taxpayer and after you have entered the premises, you are trying to figure out the reasons. What can be the probable reasons to conduct search on such person? No. Reasons have to pre-exist. Then only search is a valid search. And absence of valid reasons will make a search illegal and void. Search cannot be conducted on basis of gossips or rumors or conjectures. There must be some material to believe and circumstance must exist and they cannot be deemed to exist to arrive at opinion. Definitely, reasons to believe cannot be based on any suspicion or gossips or rumors. Reasons have to have some truth in it. They cannot be based on some conjecture or surmise. And most importantly, if there is any arbitrary or fanciful reasons, we are coming in the next slide to discuss the reasons. Any arbitrary or fanciful grounds will make the search invalid. Honorable Supreme Court, in case of Shivnath Singh, they said that yes, reasons to believe must exist. However, courts cannot go into sufficiency of reasons. Whether reasons are sufficient to conduct the search, that is not the prerogative of the courts to decide. Only valid reasons to believe should exist. Now, out of my experience, I have tried to figure out some reasons to believe which was alleged by the department, and in my humble opinion, we have adequate grounds to contest such reasons. A search was conducted. I asked the officer, sir, what are the reasons to believe why we have conducted search on so and so taxpayer? So I was told, Mr. Gupta, cash set off of this taxpayer is very less, not even 1%. Like, sir, what is this? This cannot be a reason to believe. ठीक है, it can be a reason to suspect. Now you need to make a objective assessment that whether cash set off, if it is less than even 1%, do we need to penetrate deep down and find out whether the taxpayer is supplying goods at a lesser value without following the provisions of section 15, or he has indulged in procuring fake invoices in order to claim ITC? That is to be done. Only cash set off is less cannot be a reason to believe to conduct any inspection or search. Then another very uh, different reason that they told me, that your taxpayer is not making bill to bill payment of his suppliers. Maybe, sir, this cannot be a reason to conduct a search. It is privity of contract between the recipient and supplier, how payment has to be done. If I receive a invoice of 10 lakh rupees, it is nowhere written in any accounts book that I have to make payment of 10 lakh rupees then and there. GST allows 180 days, MSMD Act allows 15 days and 45 days. But there is no condition that I have to make bill to bill payment. Then they went on saying that, Mr. Gupta, 6 of your vehicles were detained under section 129. I told them, sir, out of those 6 vehicles, in five of the cases, we filed an appeal and we won the case. And none of the case was related to evasion of tax. All of them were related to, there was some contravention, minor contravention. And we won all those cases in the appeal. And in one of the cases, the recipient, he assumed the ownership. So we have nothing to do with that case. And every day, at least 10 to 12 vehicles, they go out for transportation. So if in a year, if there are 3,650 vehicles which are moving out of my factory, and out of those 3,650 vehicles, if 6 vehicles were detained, and later on, in 5 of the cases, we won the appeal, then there cannot be a reason to believe. Then they said in one of the case that your client's turnover is increasing every year substantially. I said, this is very good. They are paying you taxes. Then it cannot be a reason to believe to conduct any inspection or search. And lastly, in one of the cases, they said that the taxpayer has bought multiple properties in last year. Again, I said, sir, this might amuse income tax department. That taxpayer is buying many properties and he has brought several properties last year. It is possible for the income tax department, but why GST department is concerned that he has bought many properties? Then friends, we are coming to reasons to believe which actually can form a reason to believe for authorizing an inspection or a search. Coming to first reason, no vehicle movement found for inward supply on which ITC is claimed. You have claimed ITC on the basis of 100 invoices, and department finds that in 90 invoices, none of the vehicle which is mentioned in your e-way bill has ever crossed any toll barrier. They may have a reason to believe. Any action is taken by any other team, maybe DGGI, maybe CGST, maybe SGST of some other place, and they have given you the information that our supplier does not exist. Therefore, ITC, which is claimed by your recipient, which is registered under your jurisdiction, you need to check. And if the proper officer frames his independent opinion without going into for borrowed satisfaction, if he frames his independent opinion that yes, a reason exists, then a search may be authorized. If proper officer, he has full-fledged information that there is a undisclosed godown belonging to a taxable person, again, it's a valid reason. Multiple vehicles were detained which were without invoice and e-way bills. for which penalty was paid. However, no appeal was filed. This clearly indicates that you intend to evade tax. You never had any invoice and you never had any e-waybill. Forms sufficient reason. And one of the reason could be ITC has been claimed in GSTR 3B without any actual inward supplies. So if you are continuously doing it, department is getting the alarm and it may form a reason to believe. So reasons to believe should be very strong that if we will go there, we will find such thing. If there is a undisclosed go down and I have a reason to believe that there is an undisclosed go down, then I just need to go there and I should find that undisclosed go down. If there are any goods which is liable for confiscation, then I should go to the premises and I should find that goods which are liable for confiscation. If I don't find any goods, and if in the Panchnama I am recording that stock is tallying exactly with the books of account, and there are no incriminating material, no incriminating goods, then I believe that the legality of such search, it will definitely fail, sir. Now, a very important question. Search can be made, and in search, goods which are liable for confiscation or any books, documents, or things which are secreted and which can be used in any proceedings under the Act, only it can be seized. Now, my question is whether department has any authority to seize cash. In case of Kanishka Matta, Honorable MP High Court, they hold the view that yes, cash can be regarded as a thing and it can be seized. However, friends, Delhi High Court, in case of Deepak Khandelwal, they had a different opinion. They said that goods and services, money is not covered either in goods nor in services. And documents, records, or books, or things, it is drawing its conclusion from the previous words. Going by the principle of Eustem Generis, High Court said that cash cannot be seized. If you have any bullion or if you have any jewelry, that cannot be seized by GST department. See, there is, and if there is a law, there is a reason behind incorporating any law. And GST is for levying tax on supply of goods and services. That GST law is not for asset recovery or penalizing any unaccounted wealth. Income tax will take care of that unaccounted wealth. So if there is any undisclosed cash or jewelry or bullion or any other precious metal, then that cannot be seized by GST department. And this judgment of Honorable High Court was upheld by Honorable Supreme Court also. Petition of department was dismissed. Hence, cash cannot be seized in case of any search activities. Friends, as we previously discussed, seizure can be made only of goods or books or documents or things which is secreted. Now, coming to the word secreted, what do you mean by secreted? Secreted means anything which is concealed and which is hidden, and it cannot be found by the department. Then we can consider it as a thing which is secreted. However, any records, any parallel bill book, any document, any register which is there to record undisclosed transaction, unaccounted transaction, they can also be treated as secreted even if they are kept at disclosed place of business. Secreted does not only means actually secreted, it also means likely to be secreted. If you have a stock of goods at your premises, say for example, stock, your books of account says that you have a stock of 5 crore rupees. And when the team, they conducted search, they found that stock was of to the tune of 8 crore rupees. Now that 3 crore rupees stock, even if it is kept at your registered godown, at your registered place of business, and it is kept alongside with your stock which is accounted for in the books, then also the initial presumption will be that such stock is secreted and it can be treated as liable for confiscation. In case of Messrs. Rajiv Traders, it was held that if goods, even if they are kept at regular place of business, however, they are not telling with your books of account, initial presumption can be made that goods are secreted. This presumption is rebuttable, that you have to rebut with your proper evidences, proper documents. Friends, some practical scenarios. Is keeping goods at undisclosed godown can be termed as secreted? Yes, definitely. If you are keeping your goods at an undisclosed location, which you have not declared in your GST registration as place of business or as additional place of business, it can be considered as secreted. And you have not recorded them, you have not mentioned such goods either in your books of account and not even in your returns. Coming to second question, if a godown is not registered as an additional place of business under GST, but goods are delivered via delivery challan, can it be treated as secreted? Friends, what was your intention? You have a place of business which is registered under that. You have another place of business which is not registered under GST Act. Now you are supplying goods from this registered place of business to that place of business which is not registered under GST Act in your GST registration. However, the supply, it is marked with proper documents. You have proper delivery challan, and that delivery challan is being reflected in your GSTR1 also. So, will that tantamount to secreted goods or secreted place of business? In my humble opinion, that place will not be termed as secreted place, and goods lying there cannot be termed as secreted goods liable for confiscation. In a interesting incident, what happened as soon as the team entered a premises of a taxpayer, they got hold of parallel account books, parallel register in which unaccounted transactions were kept. But however, that documents were placed right at beside the computer on which proper tally was being maintained. So the assessee contested, sir, I have not secreted this register, so you cannot seize it. This is lying right on my counter. So this is not secreted, and in such case, you cannot seize it. But friends, here we have to keep in mind that secreted not only covers the goods or records actually secreted, but which is likely to be secreted. Taxpayer has every intention to hide that register from the GST department. Otherwise, what is the point of maintaining parallel bill book? Otherwise, he could have very well recorded the transaction in his main books. So, if any books are maintained, even if they are at disclosed place of business, but they are kept for accounting unrecorded transactions, then they are secreted and department can seize such records, documents, and things. Friends, the most important part of the search can be termed as Panchnama. Panchnama is a document which is prescribed under CRPC as well as BNSS, Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sahita. Section 100 of CRPC and 105 and 185 of BNSS, they prescribe for preparation of Panchnama. In GST law, Panchnama is not defined. However, if we go by the crux, then it is a legal document prepared during the course of any inspection, search, or seizure. It contains truthful account of the proceedings. Whatever is happening has to be recorded in Panchnama. It should be mirror image of the proceedings at the premises where search was conducted. And whatever inventories are taken has to be recorded in Panchnama, and whatever seizure is being made has to be recorded in Panchnama. And most importantly, the Panchnama has to be signed by at least two or more independent and respectable witnesses, Panchas. If independent witnesses are not present, then my friends, entire proceedings are vitiated. I would like to share a very interesting incident with you all. In a period of a week, three of the searches were conducted. One search was conducted, it belonged to my client. Another search was of my friend, my childhood friend. And third search, it was referred to me by a chartered accountant. And in all the three of the searches, witnesses were Mr. X and Mr. Y in all the three searches. So my client went to the department and he said that, sir, something fishy is happening. Whenever a search is being conducted, these Mr. X and Mr. Y, they come to know about the search. And incidentally, they reach that places also. And incidentally, they make themselves available for the search also. And incidentally, you request them to be panchas. And incidentally, they agree to be part of that search and to witness that search. And they sign the panchnama. Friends, it can be very well concluded that those panchas were not independent. And if panchas, they are not independent witness, they are not independent, then proceedings are illegal, they are bad in law. Moreover, panchnama has to be very specific and very accurate. If department is alleging any wrongdoing on part of the taxpayer, and if they are saying that excess stock is found at your premises, which is not recorded in your books, and we will seize it, then it has to be very specific. Please bear in mind, this is in front of your screen. We have an annexure of Panchnama and full confidentiality is being maintained of the taxpayer, and it is a actual document. Now it contains the detail of the stock which was verified by the department and recorded in the annexure. If you can see the words that are marked in yellow, the word mentioned is lagbhag. For my friends who don't know the meaning of lagbhag, it is approximate. So they are recording the inventory and their department is using the word lagbhag, and they are alleging that your stock is liable for seizure and then confiscation. So after I got the panchnama, we raised a query that, sir, what is the meaning of this lagbhag when you are alleging that stock was excess? Then in such case, your counting has to be accurate. If you are using the word lagbhag, then your stock taking is throw in haywire. So we were able to make out a very good case out of this word lagbhag. So if department is alleging that you have excess stock which is liable for confiscation and it is not recorded in your books, then no lagbhag and no approximate words can be used. Another very interesting matter, in this case, a taxpayer was having his place of business and a branch also. And when Panchnama was prepared, it was mentioned that firm की जांच पर एक टीम मिस्टर एक्स के नेतृत्व में गई तथा वहां रखे स्टॉक की इन्वेंट्री तैयार की। दोनों व्यापार स्थल पर रखे स्टॉक की इन्वेंट्री कुल 5 पेज में बनाई गई जो इस पंचनामे का हिस्सा होगी। Friends, as I previously said, a panchnama has to be prepared separately for each premises. You have separate INS you need to have separate Panchnama, because the witness who is present at principal place of business cannot be present simultaneously at your registered place of business. And whenever you prepare a Panchnama, you have to hand over that Panchnama to the occupant of that place, not to the owner. You have to hand over that Panchnama to the occupant of that place. It is very well mentioned in BNSS as well as CRPC. In many of the cases, what happens that owner on whose premises search is conducted, he is out of India, he cannot come, or he is ill, he is critically ill, he cannot come. Then also searches are conducted, and in that case, the person who is occupying that place is the relevant person. His signatures are taken on INS 01. He is offered for searches, and he is the person who is present there throughout the search. So a owner doesn't need to be present when a search is conducted. So a combined Panchnama was prepared and combined stock sheet was prepared. This is not permissible. Friends, in another very interesting incident, search was conducted, and it was when the search came to the conclusion and Panchnama was being prepared, team of the team department team, they asked the employees of the taxpayer to sign the Panchnama, and under the stress, under the coercion, the employees signed the Panchnama. Here independence of the search is affected, because if witnesses they are not independent, then search is vitiated. We have a very important case of Shri Sai Food Grains and Iron Stores versus State of Bihar, where Honorable Patna High Court held that if independent witnesses are not present, then search cannot be termed as legal, and in that case the demand issued under section 72 subsection 9 was declared illegal and hence quashed. So independence of witness is very important when search is being conducted. If department is making seizures, then you can definitely ask them that you need some photocopies so that your business doesn't come to an halt. And if the department feels that photocopies is going to affect the investigation prejudicially, then in that case, without then department can disallow you to take any photocopies. However, if no prejudice is caused, then department will definitely allow you to take the photocopies. Retention and return of seized articles. Whenever seizure is made, in that case, it can be divided into two parts: seizure of goods and seizure of books, records, and documents. If any books, records, documents, they are not relied upon for issuance of notice, it has to be returned within 30 days of the issuance of the notice. When goods are seized, please bear in mind, whenever goods are seized and no notice in respect of such goods is given within 6 months, and another extension with the approval of commissioner of another 6 months, then those goods have to be returned. If seizure is made, now department is contemplating any confiscation, then that notice should come within 6 months from the seizure. If no notice is coming, either of under section 130 or under section 74, then those goods are liable to be returned to the taxpayer. Provisional release of goods. Friends, whenever seizure is made, you can ask for provisional release, and department in most of the cases they have no reason to withhold that release if you are able to comply with the conditions. You have to ask for provisional release in form GST INS 04 by way of furnishing of security to the value of goods, execution of bond by to the value of the goods, and furnishing of security by way of bank guarantee for the amount of applicable tax, interest, and penalty. In such case, you can get your goods provisionally released. However, please keep in mind, provisional release does not means that you can deal with the goods the way you like, that you can sell them off, you can dispose them off. No. Whenever the authority asks you to bring back those goods, you have to bring those goods to the department. So it is very important. Provisional release does not mean that you can sell off or dispose the goods or articles. Disposal of seized articles, this is pertaining to perishable and hazardous nature. So notification, as per notification 27 of 2018, certain goods are there which are of perishable or hazardous nature, and they have separate provisions for their release, and that is prescribed by Rule 141. Friends, another very important concept which is not talked of much is spot seizure under section 67 subsection 11. If the proper officer, if he feels that any person has evaded or he is attempting to evade the payment of tax, then he might, for the reasons to be recorded in writing, seize the accounts, register or documents of such person produced before him and shall grant a receipt. Now it is very interesting to note that we are talking of spot seizure of accounts, register and documents. It has nothing to do with search or inspection. This spot seizure can be made by proper officer under any circumstances if he has reason to believe that payment of tax has been evaded or a person is trying to evade, is attempting to evade payment of tax. So if a search is conducted, definitely goods as well as documents, books and records can be seized. However, even without a search being conducted, if the officer feels that accounts, registers or documents need to be seized, then he can seize even without issuing any INS 01 and INS 02. Just a receipt of acknowledgement will be handed over to you and seizure can be made. Test purchase, obviously a commissioner. Take for example, Deepavali time is going on and commissioner wants to check whether the sweet seller, he is issuing bill in every case, he is selling only under valid invoice, then he can authorize anybody to go and check whether a person is issuing a tax invoice or not. It can be in case of goods as well as in case of service. And if the person is issuing tax invoice, then after checking, the officer can return the goods. The taxable person, he shall refund the amount and cancel the invoice. And please bear in mind, supply of services cannot be returned. Now, coming to very important question, whether illegal searches vitiate the seizure and subsequent proceedings. For example, search was conducted, evidences were collected. However, search was marred by some irregularities. In that case also, friends, whatever evidences are collected, even in illegal search, they have their admissibility. Illegality affects only the manner of search, not the admissibility of evidence. And if there is any procedural lapse in conducting search under section 67, reads with rule 139, then credible evidences which are seized, they can still be used against the taxpayer. Validity of search can be challenged, but whatever material is seized, whatever evidences are seized, they have their value and they can be used against the taxpayer. Now coming to very important concept, confidential report in GST search. Friends, whenever anti-evasion team or special investigating branch, SI, which we popularly call as SIB, whenever they conduct search, they issue summons, they collect evidence, they record statements, and after that they prepare a report which is forwarded to adjudicating authority, because the team which is conducting search does not adjudicate the case. Adjudicating authority is separate, and in that case the confidential report is forwarded to the authority. That forms the basis for issuance of SCN under Section 74. Needless to say, whenever search is conducted, notice under Section 73 cannot be issued. That will vitiate again, it will vitiate the proceedings. So notice has to be issued under Section 74 and now under Section 74A. So in case that SCN is based on that confidential report, and that confidential report, especially in case of State Department, is not provided to the taxpayer. So a taxpayer has every right to ask for that confidential report. And in case of Lari Almira, Honorable Allahabad High Court has held that confidential report has to be provided to the taxpayer because that forms relied upon document on the basis of which search was conducted. So in that case, that report will be relied upon for issuance of SCN. Then in that case, taxpayer has to be provided that confidential report so that he can prepare his defense reply and he can represent his case in a proper manner. Friends, we regularly see that whenever a search is conducted, there is a pressure by the department on the taxpayer to deposit some tax and pay some tax by way of DRC 03. Here, I would like to say that if the taxpayer really feels, genuinely feels that he has made some mistake and there's a contravention, then he can pay the tax by DRC 03, and in that way he will be able to reduce his penalty as well as his interest. However, by no means, by without any stretch of imagination, a taxpayer cannot be compelled for payment of tax. See, search is not a recovery mechanism. For that, you have adjudication, and thereafter recovery can be made only as per Section 79. Department cannot force a taxpayer to deposit tax then and there. If it is done, then it is in violation to the instruction passed by CBIC as well as various case laws passed by honorable courts. So if taxpayer generally feels that he can deposit the tax straight away, most welcome. Otherwise, under no compulsion. He is under no compulsion to deposit tax whenever searches are conducted. And another very important question. There is a acceptability by the department. Okay, you pay DRC under protest. Friends, under protest means taxpayer is not willing. Therefore, DRC loses its value because whenever we deposit tax through DRC 03, it is a voluntary payment. And if a payment is being made under protest, courts have held that it is against the wishes and taxpayer has every right to contest. In one of the cases, taxpayer was required to pay 1 crore rupees. And the total evasion that the department alleged was 1 crore 1 lakh rupees. What department did? They adjusted that 1 crore rupees against 1 crore 1 lakh demand. And when they passed the final order, it was of only 1 lakh rupees. I said, sir, I don't want to appeal for this 1 lakh rupees. I have to file an appeal against full 1 crore 1 lakh rupees. So you kindly allow me, you rectify your order, and then only I'll be able to file an appeal. And recently, Honorable Supreme Court has also held, though that case led to Section 68, read with Section 129, that DRC 03, even after DRC 03, lawful procedure of if notice has been issued and tax has been paid voluntarily, then also order has to be passed. And if I am paying under protest, then it clearly indicates that I am not willing to pay that tax. We have several case laws. However, Nandi Dhal Mills is very important, and Allahabad High Court in the case of Khaitan Food, India, categorically held that no payment can be forced during the course of search, and if taxpayer contest the payment, then it cannot be treated as a voluntary discharge of his tax. Friends, coming to summons and recording of statement and evidences. First of all, GST department is authorized under section 69 as well as under section 70. For 69, it is for arrest, and 70 is to issue summons. Department is very well under its authority to issue summons. This was contested before Honorable Supreme Court, and in case of Radhika Agrawal, and Honorable Supreme Court held that section 70 is very well within the jurisdiction of the department. They can issue summons. So under section 70, the proper officer, if he considered necessary that he requires attendance of any person to give evidence or produce any document or any other thing in any inquiry, then he can summon any person. A person can go directly himself, or he can send his authorized representative also. However, if the proper officer feels that that presence of a particular person is required and not of an authorized representative, then that person has to go. Summon has to be issued only for the purpose of inquiry, INQUIRY, and not enquiry, ENQUIRY. Inquiry is a generic term. It is a simple term, means to ask. And when you are inquiring, it means you are trying to find you are going for some proceedings. You are going for a judicial proceeding. So a summon cannot be issued under section 65 or under section 61. However, when a search is conducted, summons can be issued. Needless to say that issuance of summons it is a judicial proceeding, and instruction number 3/2022-23, it lays down guidelines for issuance of summons. Friends, as I previously said, inquiry is something else, and to inquire is something else. When you are inquiring, INQUIRY, you are making a formal investigation. So a proper officer, in case of someone, can ask you to produce any documents or things. See, they cannot ask you to prepare a report or compile a report. They can just ask you to present the documents or records which you have. They cannot give you any homework to do something. Only documents or records which you have can be presented during summon, and they can ask you to record a statement. It is prerogative of the department officer, of the proper officer whom they want to summon. Like, it is useless to summon a managing director of a company when the matter pertains to some specific entries. For that, you can summon an accountant or CFO. It is very probable that MD might not even knowing those entries and their effect on the accounts. So that is the discretion of the department. No prescribed procedure is followed. However, the instruction very well says that you have to, it is not in first hand, you should call the top-notch officer of a company. If you can suffice, if a accountant can suffice, if he can reply, if he can explain the position, then there is no need of calling managing director. Friends, when someone is given and you have to record a statement, you have to be very, very careful, because it is a judicial proceedings, and Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita and Indian Penal Code are applicable in case of summons. And if you are giving any false evidence, you are committing a crime. If you are evading summons, if you are not giving proper replies, if you are saying, I don't know, I would not like to answer to this question, please proceed on, then believe me, you are not helping yourself. If you are elusive, if you are evading the questions, and if you are not answering, see, if you genuinely don't know the answer, then you can very well say, sir, I don't know the answer. I will get back to you. Just allow me some time and I'll come to you and I'll reply. And if you are not present in the town, then you can write a letter that, sir, I am not present in the town, and so on so and so date, Kindly allow me some other date. Friends, please bear in mind, courts will frown upon if you are evading summons. In case of arrest, definitely it is seen that whether you are cooperating with the department and whether you are participating in the proceedings. If summons are being issued and you try to be elusive, you are not going to the department for recording your statements, then, as I said, you are not doing any good. Now, coming to evidentiary value of the statement before GST authorities. Friends, as we all know, and it is very well established that GST officers, they are not police officers. So, any statement or any, if we are giving any statement before the GST officers, it can be treated as true and admission. If statement is voluntary, then it has very strong value. And if the person who has made the statement, now if he is not there for any reason, if he is dead, if he cannot be found, if he is incapable of giving evidences, if he is kept out of the way by adverse party, and his presence cannot be obtained without any amount of delay, which the court considers unreasonable. In such case, his statements will be considered for the proceedings. So, any statement, since GST officers, they are not the police officers, so any statement before the GST officers, it carries evidentiary value. And courts have held, in case of customs law also, excise also, and GST also, that statement before GST officer is not a statement before police officers, and therefore statement made before GST officers, they have a evidentiary value until and unless they are retracted. And how statement can be retracted, how and when? See, if you were required to give certain statement under threat, under coercion, under influence, or statements you were made to sit in the department in the middle of the night, then you can very well say that you want to retract from the statement. If you were not appraised with whatever is written, or if wrong facts were given to you, then you can retract from the statement. If you want to retract, then the person who made the statement, he has to retract it. And at the first opportunity, as soon as you come out of the department where your statements were recorded, you can immediately shoot a mail to the officer as well as his higher ups that my statements were recorded under tremendous threat and coercion, and I don't go by the statement. I want to retract it. Create a trail for that. If you are retracting from your statement, early the better. If you are retracting from the statement, say after 5 days or after 10 days, then definitely it will be treated as an afterthought. And if you are retracting from the statement, then it alone will not suffice. If department is able to prove whatever you said was true through some corroborative evidences, in that case, the statements will be treated as valid. And therefore, friends, even if you retract from the statement, department will try to corroborate it. So only if you were under threat, if you were under coercion, or if you were appraised with the wrong facts, then only you retract from your statement. Otherwise, otherwise, if you are retracting, even if your statements were right, then there is no question of retracting from your statements. And admittance is the best remedy. Friends, another very important aspect, whenever a search is conducted, department if they find some loose slips on those and there was some writing in it, then they consider it as an evidence against you. Just consider an example. A search was conducted on a person who is running a grocery store, and there were some loose slips which bears 100 kilo dal, 100 Amul butter, and likewise. It was written on a loose slip. Now, department alleges that this is your unrecorded sale. Taxpayer says, sir, this is not my unrecorded sale. Party places their telephonic orders and I write those orders on these loose slips because I don't know what inventory do I have. And whenever an order is placed, if whatever supplies are being made, they are made and invoices issued. Now, friends, in that case, the loose slips, until and unless they are corroborated by some evidences, they have they have no evidentiary value. Even any entries in books of account, please go through. See, Bharatiya Sakshi Adhiniyam, Bharatiya Nyaya Sahita, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sahita. All these acts are very important. You have to go through them. IPC, CRPC, these acts are very important as far as search, summons, arrest, these procedures are concerned. So section 28 of BSA, it clearly says entries in books of account, including those maintained in electronic form, regularly kept in course of business are relevant whenever they refer to a matter in which court has to inquire. But such statements shall not alone be sufficient evidence to charge any person with a liability. That has to be corroborated. Now, friends, after search is done, there are few probable actions by the department. First of all, what action department does? If there is excess stock, excess inventory, they immediately go under section 130 and they say that you have not accounted your goods on which you are liable to pay taxes. In that case, these goods are liable for confiscation under section 130. Section 130 subsection 1 and subsection 2, they are very important, as well as subsection 3. If you are supplying or receiving any goods in contravention of any of the provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder with the intent to evade payment of tax, then immediately department goes under section 130 and they initiate the proceeding. And in most of the cases, section 130 notice is given by anti-evasion or SIV branch itself, because in most of the states, power under section 130 is given to SIV branch itself. So they immediately shoot a notice under section 130. Friends, Honorable Allahabad High Court, in multiple judgments, Metandra Limited, Dinesh Kumar, Mahamaya Alloys, Eco Plus Steel, they have categorically hold that in case any excess stock is found during search, then proceedings cannot be initiated under section 130. Friends, I would like to draw your attention to section 35, subsection 6, pertaining to books and records of CGST Act. It says that subject to provision of clause H of subsection 5 of section 17, where the registered person fails to account, please bear in mind, where the registered person fails to account for the goods or services or both in accordance with the provisions of subsection 1, the proper officer shall determine the amount of tax payable on the goods or services or both that are not accounted for, as if such goods or services or both have been supplied by such person, and the provisions of section 73 or 74 or 74A, as the case may be, shall mutatis mutandis apply for determination of the tax, meaning whereby if any excess stock is found in during the course of search, then provisions of section 74 shall apply and not section 130. in multiple judgments. Mitandre Limited, in case of Vijay Trading Company, same Section 130 proceedings were initiated. Taxpayer contested that only provisions of Section 74 can apply and my stock cannot be confiscated. Allahabad High Court ruled in favor of the taxpayer. Department went to Supreme Court and their SLP was dismissed. So it is clearly established, friends. It is clearly established that whenever excess stock is found during search, in that case, proceedings under Section 74 shall apply, not Section 130. Consider a very interesting case. A supplier of books, his outward supply is exempt. And since in case of exempt supply, you are not entitled to claim any ITC, so he is procuring the stock of paper of the records. When search was conducted, there was a pile of paper which is taxed at 12%, which was not recorded in his books of account, because since he is not getting any ITC, so all the purchases were made off the record and hardly 30 to 35% of the paper was purchased actually. Now, when the team they unearthed that unaccounted stock of paper, taxpayer pleaded that, sir, GST is applicable only in case of supply and not for keeping the stock in the premises. And I have not made any supply. Therefore, you cannot levy any tax on me. You cannot collect any tax, any interest, any penalty from me. Friends, in that case, I would like to remind you that provisions of Section 35, subsection 6 shall apply. That any stock which is not accounted in the books, it shall be treated as if it has been supplied, and the provisions of Section 73 and 74 shall apply mutatis mutandis. Another draconian step which department restores to is blocking of credit under Section 86A. Friends, department says that you have claimed some fake ITC or your inward supplies are bogus, they are fake. Now we will block your credit. And friends, please believe me, whenever credit is blocked, the business of a taxpayer comes to an halt. So this is very draconian tool in the hands of department, that if they allege and it is a preemptive action, it is an emergency action, there is no adjudication in it. So whenever department feels arising as a result of search or some information that ITC which you have claimed, you are not entitled to claim that ITC for the reason that either buyer or supplier may be non-existent, or tax in respect of that supply has not been paid, or you have claimed ITC without any actual receipt of goods or services, or you don't possess any invoice. In that case, credit can be blocked. Credit can be blocked means in that case, you won't be allowed to use that credit to pay your tax liabilities, nor you can claim any refund of that credit. In case of Canine Enterprises, Honorable Karnataka High Court, they said that, okay, we agree that notice has not to be given in case where an action under Section 86A, blocking of credit, is contemplated. However, on the premise of natural justice, this is a very draconian step. You are putting anybody's business to halt. So in that case, credit ledger, if it has to be blocked, then it has to be preceded by a pre-decisional hearing. Department has to put the taxpayer to notice that we wish to block your credit on so and so ground, and he has every right to put his case, and then only his credit can be blocked. And when this action, when credit was blocked and the taxpayer went to Honorable Karnataka High Court ruled in favor of the taxpayer. Department went to Honorable Supreme Court, and Honorable Supreme Court dismissed the petition of the department, establishing that a pre-decisional hearing is very important. Another concept, friends, you have an amount of only 10 lakh rupees in your credit ledger, and department blocks your credit ledger by 1 crore rupees. They say that in last 3 years or 4 years, you have claimed ineligible ITC, bogus ITC of 1 crore rupees. Therefore, we'll put a block of 1 crore rupees to your credit ledger. Now, credit ledger had only balance of 10 lakh rupees, and department has put a block of 1 crore rupees, meaning whereby now your credit ledger has minus 90 lakh rupees. So as soon as you will make some purchases, you will get some inward supplies. Till 90 lakh rupees, you won't be able to use your credits. And after ITC of 90 lakh rupees, then only you can use your credits. So again, this action was challenged before Honorable Delhi High Court. One case is already in front of you on the screen. Another case was of King's Security Guard Services Private Limited, where negative blocking was challenged, and Delhi High Court held that it is against the law. You cannot block the credit which is not even in the account. And against this decision, the department went to Honorable Supreme Court. Again, Honorable Supreme Court dismissed the petition of the department, and they didn't interfere with the decision of Honorable High Court. Though Honorable Allahabad High Court have held that credit ledger can be blocked negatively. However, Delhi High Court has a different opinion, which is confirmed by Honorable Supreme Court also. So friends, both blocking of credit without notice and negative blocking of credit is against the law. Another important tool, another important weapon with the department is that they can provisional attach your property. If proceedings are under section 59 to 64 means assessment proceedings, under section 67 to 72 means inspection, search and seizure, or under section 73 to 84 demands and recoveries. And if department feels that in order to protect the interest of the revenue, any property, movable or immovable, it needs to attach, then provisional attachment can be done. Now, friends, it is very important to know, to see that this opinion has to be framed by the commissioner, and a provisional attachment can only be done when it is necessary to do so for the purpose of protecting the interest of the revenue. Otherwise, you have a process, adjudication process. Thereafter, demand will be raised. Recoveries can be made under section 79. But if commissioner is of the opinion that it is necessary to protect the interest of the revenue, any attachment has to be made. And without attachment, the interest of the government cannot be protected. Then provisional attachment can be done by way of DRC 22. If taxpayer wishes to file an objection, that can be done, and thereafter commissioner can pass an order under DRC 23. So it is again a very draconian step where provisional attachments are made. And one thing very important, your bank account can be attached. However, your cash credit account cannot be attached because it is loan to you. You don't maintain any balance in it. So cash credit account cannot be provisionally attached by the department. Friends, now we are coming to very important aspect, that is section 69. As we have already discussed, in case of Radhika Agarwal versus Union of India, Honorable Supreme Court held that arrest can be made by GST department where the wires were challenged for arresting and for issuance of summon. It was challenged before Honorable Supreme Court. Honorable Supreme Court held that arrest can be made by GST department. Taxpayer relied on Om Prakash judgment, which was again passed by Honorable Supreme Court, but in later courts, GST Act, it has come in force from 1st July 2017, and government has taken adequate steps and due care to incorporate the provisions that only in case of pertinent need arrest can be made, and when arrest is imminent, it is necessary, in that case only arrest will be made. So these measures are already incorporated in section 69, reads with section 132. Section 69 pertains to arrest, when arrest can be made, and section 132 prescribes for offenses for which penalties have been prescribed. So if we go with section 69, then if the commissioner, only commissioner is authorized, not additional commissioner, not joint commissioner, if a commissioner, if he feels, if he has reason to believe that a person has committed any offense falling under clause A, B, C, or D of subsection 1 of section 132, or subsection clause 1 or 2 of subsection 1 or and of subsection 2, we'll come to in the next slide. Arrest can be made only if commissioner has reason to believe. And friends, please bear in mind that arrest cannot be made only if it is legal and lawful, if it is as per GST Act. If an arrest is lawful, then it does not mandate that arrest has to be made. Arrest can be made only if there are compelling reasons. We have an instruction of CBIC, which we will read in ensuing slides, that when an arrest can be made. But before going to that, we have to read section 132, which prescribes that when arrest can be made as per section 69, and when punishment by way of imprisonment can be made, and what are the offenses which are bailable and non-cognizable, and what are the offenses which are non-bailable and cognizable. I have tried to show you section 132 by way of a table. So if we go by the table, only first four offenses, they are non-bailable and cognizable, means GST officer does not need any search warrant to arrest in first four cases, which is supply goods or services without invoice, means invoice-less supply of goods. Second is issuance of invoice or bills without supply of goods or services, means goodless or serviceless supplies of invoice. In first case, it was supply of goods without invoice. In second case, it is supply of goods or services without issuance of invoice, means you are just issuing fake invoices. Third is availing ITC using such fake invoice. On the basis of fake invoices, you are claiming ITC. And in clause D, you are collecting tax, but you are not paying it to the government within 3 months of the due date. In all these cases, offenses can be non-bailable and cognizable if the amount of tax evasion exceeds 5 crore rupees. So if the amount of tax evaded, it exceeds 5 crore rupees, and if your offense falls under clause A, B, C, D, then then your offense is non-bailable and cognizable. In rest of the cases, all the offenses are bailable and non-cognizable. If evasion is from 200 lakh rupees to 500 lakh rupees, then 3 years imprisonment is prescribed. Another very important aspect, if you falsify your records, then you are liable for imprisonment. If an accountant or any other person, he falsifies the records and he abates and he helps the person in falsifying the record, then also he can be imprisoned for a period up to 6 months or with fine or with both. Not only committing of an offense, abating as well as attempt to commit an offense is also punishable. Therefore, friends, as a chartered accountant, we should be very careful and very cautious whenever we are advising any client. We should be very lawful, we should abide by the law and rules, and in no case a client should get any help, any advice from us which is not as per law. Friends, now coming to the important concept, as we were discussing the arrest provisions, we have a very famous case of Radhika Agrawal versus Union of India, recently pronounced by Honorable Supreme Court, and I have tried to comprehend all the important points of that case before you. First important concept is, as we have already discussed, arrest is legal in GST law and summoning is legal in GST law. The argument was before Honorable Supreme Court that GST law is for levy and collection of tax. Therefore, arrest cannot be made under GST law. Because the crux of the act, the idea of the act was only for levy and collection of tax on supplies, be it interested, whatever. But nowhere it is to punish. However, the court held that arresting any wrongdoers is very important for levy and collection of tax. That's why arresting is also permitted and Section 70 summons are also permitted. These powers are ancillary to the levy and collection of tax. Now, in very interesting case, it was argued, and we have a famous case of Jayachandran Aloys also. I can't remember the name of the honorable court, but we have a case of Jayachandran Aloys where it was held that arrest can be made only after adjudication. If no adjudication, if liability is not fixed, then how come department they can quantify that the evasion is exceeding 5 crore rupees? In that case also, Honorable Supreme Court held that it is not necessary that first adjudication will be done and only after that arrest can be made. If arrest, if the commissioner has reasonable material, if he has reasonable belief that it is very important to arrest a particular person, then he can arrest it. He can authorize the arrest even before adjudication. If the commissioner believes that a person may abscond or he may intimidate with the witness and the quantum of evasion exceeds 5 crore rupees, then arrest can be authorized. So we don't need any adjudication before arrest is made. Obviously, courts can obviously review the arrest. This power lies with the courts, but they have to be used in very selective manner. Courts can examine the legality of arrest. However, they cannot go into sufficiency of the reasons. If arrest is made, it has to be made on admissible material. Sufficient grounds should exist and it should be recorded in writing. And those grounds must be furnished to the assessee. Friends, there are two important concepts. One is reason to arrest and another is ground of arrest. Both reasons of arrest as well as grounds of arrest has to be communicated to the taxpayer. If there is lapse of on part of department in communicating the grounds, then obviously that arrest is illegal. Another very important aspect is that whenever interrogation is happening, you have every right to consult and to meet the advocate of your choice before or during investigation or interrogation, but not throughout. Your advocate or counsel can be present within a visible but not audible distance. If there is a glass door, he can see you, but he cannot hear you. So, this is very important. At the time of arrest, you have every right to ask the department to inform your family, your friends, whomsoever you want to inform that an arrest has happened. And if you are, you can always ask for medical help because safety and health is of prime importance of any citizen of India. This is a well established principle as per DK Basu case also. So, a mandatory arrest memo has to be there. Friends and relatives have to be informed. Medical examination has to be conducted, and person should be produced before the magistrate within 24 hours of his arrest. Another very important aspect is that whether anticipatory bail can be applied in case of offenses under GST Act. Supreme Court have held yes, if you think that there are reasons that your offense is cognizable and non-bailable, you can very well apply to relevant courts for issuance of pre-arrest bails. So that is your right. You can always go for anticipatory bails. Friends, as I previously said, that we have a very important instruction 2/2022-23 where conditions precedent to arrest is prescribed by CBIC, and it has categorically held that there has to be reasons to believe, and even if legal conditions are met, arrest should be considered only and only if the person is involved in non-bailable offense with credible information. It is, I'm sorry, friends, there was some power interruption. Just a second. My sincere apologies. So, as you are talking, conditions precedent to arrest, the person is involved in non-bailable offense. Arrest has to is important for arrest is very important because there is a risk of tampering with the evidence. The person is mastermind or key operator in the fraudulent ITC case, and arrest is necessary to secure their presence before the investigating authority. Friends, I would like to quote one of my case where a person was asked by the department to come to the proceedings and he absconded from the place. Now, if we are not cooperating with the department, then there is a reasonable ground that in case of non-cooperation, department may arrest you. So, a very important word of caution that in any proceedings before the department, you have to cooperate, you have to appear whenever you are required to do so. And if you are not cooperating, then courts, as I previously said, courts will take it very seriously. We have a procedure for arrest as I already said, case of DK Basu is very important. It has to be followed. Grounds, noting date, time, and informing a nominated person. It is very important. A woman can be arrested only by a woman officer, and if any medical assistance is required, then medical assistance will be made available to you. Friend, as I just a second. Friends, as I previously said, that reasons of arrest as well as grounds of arrest has to be communicated to the person who is being arrested. And instruction 1 oblique 2025 of GST is very important in this case. It says that both reasons and grounds has to be communicated to the taxpayer or the person who is being arrested. Reasons, they are like more general, that the accused person, he can tamper with the evidence, he can intimidate with the witness, or he can abscond. They are the general reasons to arrest. But ground has to be very specific. When you are arresting a person, he should be told the grounds for which he is being arrested, and that is individual specific, so that he can prepare his case well, and he can supply and he can consult his advocate and prepare his case. Now coming to some softer version, we have section 67 for search. 68 is for interception of vehicles. As of now, we have not covered that section. However, if time will permit, we will definitely discuss it. 69 is for arrest, 70 is for summon, and access to business premises. This is a softer version. Here, department doesn't need any reason to believe. If any officer not below the rank of joint commissioner, if he has to access any place of business, then he can use this section. And whenever section 71 permission is given, then you can only visit a place of business to have access to your books of account, documents, computers, computer programs, computer softwares, etc. Now, in case of section 71 access, under no circumstances you can go for counting of the stock, nor you can seize any document, nor you can impound any books. So power is very restricted when section 71 is there. Every person in charge of a place referred to subsection 1 shall on demand make available to the officer authorized under subsection 1 or the audit party deputed by the proper officer or a cost accountant or a chartered accountant. In case of special audits also, access to premises is covered under section 71. Whenever a search is conducted, you will always find some police officers accompanying the team. And in case of search of a residential premises, a woman police officer has to be there. Friends, as we are about to come to the conclusion of today's presentation, I would like to discuss some provisions for pertaining to issuance of fake invoices and claiming of fake ITC. Circular number 171 oblique 3 oblique 2022 is very important. And whenever you get a notice, you have to check under which section particular notice has been issued. For example, whenever a notice is issued under section 74, then there is only one possibility, that either your inward supply is fake or your outward supply is fake. If the department alleges that both your inward and outward supplies are fake, then in that case proceedings can be done only under section 122 and not section 74, because section 74 can be used only in case of supply, whereas section 122 can, it has a broader perspective, and if there is no actual supply, only paper trading has been done, means receipt of fake bills, availing fake credit, and issuing a fake invoice. If only this procedure is involved, then in that case, proceedings under section 74 will are not permitted. Department will have to resort to the provisions of section 122. We have a very famous case wherein, which was pronounced by Honorable Allahabad High Court, wherein Patanjali proceedings were initiated section 74 against Patanjali. After some time, department withdrew their notice under section 74 and they initiated the proceedings under section 122. So this action was challenged by Patanjali, and it was said that section 122 is more rigorous provision, and once department has decided to withdraw their notice under section 74, they cannot initiate fresh proceedings under section 122. Friends, as per section 75, subsection 13, it is very well mentioned that if any penalty has been levied under section 74, then no penalty can be levied under any other section or under any of the provisions of that for the same contravention. However, Allahabad High Court upheld the decision of the department, and they said that once a notice under section 74 has been withdrawn, then department can very well proceed under section 122. So friends, this is very important aspect, that whenever a notice is given to you, is served to you, you have to see that whether that notice is issued under section 73 or 74 or section 122. And most importantly, friends, I would like to say that whenever a search is conducted, then a notice cannot be issued under section 73, because section 73 notice pertains to determination of tax not paid, short paid, or erroneously refunded, or ITC wrongly availed or utilized for reason other than fraud or willful misstatement or suppression. And the basis of section 67 lies on fraud, willful misstatement, or suppression of the facts or documents or transactions or stock. So wherever a notice issued under section 73, you can straight away challenge the proceedings. And another very important aspect, though we are not covering notice under section 73 or 74 in our presentation, it only pertains to search and seizure and arrest. However, whenever search is conducted, the proceedings will culminate to notice under section 74. Notice under section 74 will be issued. So, first of the very important thing, notice under section 74 should clearly bear that there has been fraud or willful misstatement or suppression of fact. And if no mention of fraud, willful misstatement, suppression, and what exact the fraud or willful misstatement or suppression of fact was done, which was done, if that doesn't find mention in the notice, then I believe section 74 notice will not stand. Secondly, whenever a search is conducted, department has larger access to your books, to your records, in comparison to simple section 74 notice, which has culminated out of, say, ASMT 10 proceedings or otherwise. So, as we all know, the amount of tax in the order, it cannot exceed the amount of tax or interest or penalty as mentioned in the notice. So, it is very important to bear that whatever amount is mentioned in the notice, order cannot exceed that. But there are certain reservations I would like to mention. We have a contradictory judgment, though I would not say it's a contradictory judgment. However, both of the judgments in case of Vrinda Automotives as well as Mohit Minerals, it was mentioned by Honorable Allahabad High Court. In first of the case, they said that notice, whatever amount is mentioned in the notice, the order cannot exceed the amount that is mentioned in the notice. If notice is of say 50 lakh rupees, then order has to be of 50 lakh rupees or less. It cannot exceed 50 lakh rupees. However, in another case, in case of Vrinda, it was said that officer demanded and they alleged that you have not made any payment to sundry creditors. So you have to establish before us that the payment was made within 180 days. And if you are not establishing that payment was made within 180 days, then we will treat that it is a violation of section 16 and we will disallow the credits and we will impose applicable tax and penalty whatever. In that case, the taxpayer, what he replied, he said that as per section 74, you have to determine the tax and you have to issue a notice and then you have to pass an order. You cannot ask me for my records, documents, or any other details. I am not the assessee. He preferred to he kept mum. He just replied. He on few of the points he replied, and for rest of the points he said that department cannot ask whether I have made payment to my creditors 180 days. You have to determine tax, issue a notice, and pass an order. This is what is prescribed under section 74. In that case, Honorable Allahabad High Court held that even though the liability was not quantified, that how much creditors we will add, but department very well raised this point, and when they have raised this point, the taxpayer is duty bound by supplying necessary documents, records, and presenting his case before the adjudicating authority that he has made his payment within 180 days or otherwise. And then, if he is not giving any evidences, he is not making any replies, he is not submitting any documents, then in that case, the amount as mentioned in the order can exceed the amount as mentioned in the notice because ground was already taken in the notice. Only quantification was not done. So in that case, if notice has a ground and the taxpayer doesn't supply the necessary documents and records, in that case, order can very well exceed the amount. So with these words, friends, it's already 5:55 and we are coming to the end of our presentation. Any queries which are there,
Request you to take
definitely
some
we will.
questions in
Pardon, ma'am?
Q&A section. Sir, request you to take some questions in Q&A section. The one
Ma'am, I would just like to request how you will provide me the access to it.
so that link has to be open. Huh? Admin link has to be open.
Just a second. Just a second. Yesterday. We are just going through the questions. Just allow me a minute. Uh, Ma'am, where is that admin site?
I hope the link is accessible.
Yeah, I have gone through the link. There are few questions, and definitely we will like to take the questions. Uh, just a minute. Yes. We have a question from Mr. Sandeep. If is confiscation by department during vehicle movement for wrong invoice is allowed until penalty is paid under protest? Uh, See, confiscation is not done upfront. First of all, whenever a vehicle is detained, then goods are seized, and if you pay the penalty, 200% of tax as penalty, then you can get your goods and vehicle released. If you want to get your vehicle released, you can pay a penalty of 1 lakh rupees and get your vehicle released. Confiscation is the last process. If you are not paying any penalty, or if the goods they are of such nature, of perishable nature, then confiscation can be done. And in that case, or if you are not making any payments of penalty and nor you have filed any appeal, you have not released your goods by way of bond or security, in that case confiscation can be done. uh, how can search and seizure be authorized on non-GST registered person? So very well, as we said that we have to go by the definition of taxable person, and taxable person is the one who is not only registered under GST but who is liable to be registered under GST. So if you are working off the record and your turnover is 20 crore rupees or 100 crore rupees and nothing is in white, everything is in black, then department cannot let you go like this only. So if you have crossed the limit of 40 lakh rupees in case of goods or 20 lakh in case of services or even a single rupee in case of interstate supply, in that case, I believe that department can definitely conduct, and it is their every right, and they will definitely conduct search upon you if you have not even taken a registration. Sir, what if some goods have been found in undisclosed place which has not been added on GST portal? This query is of Mr. Sagar Garg from Agra. Sagarji, as we already said, that initial presumption is that goods are liable for confiscation. Now you have to rebut that presumption. Undisclosed place means which is off the record, and you have not maintained any trail for that. However, as I quoted in my example, that if goods are at some undisclosed place, you couldn't add for some reason. In one of my cases, I tried to add a godown on 15 occasions, and every time I was getting rejection. And after a few days, a search was conducted at that place. Then I told the authorities that, sir, my intention is very clear. I have tried to add this go down in my registration, and for some frivolous reasons, I am getting this rejected again and again. So please, in that case, it cannot be considered as undisclosed, and goods cannot be treated as liable for confiscation. Another very important point: if you are supplying goods from location X to location Y through delivery challans, and that delivery challans they are recorded in your GSTR1, that will be treated as disclosure of information. And please, if you are not filing the required details in your GSTR1 or in your GST returns, suppose if you are not uploading HSN summary, then believe me, friends, it will be treated as suppression of fact. So if you have credible grounds, then obviously undisclosed location can also be, you can make a very good case out of it. Each place of business means each additional place of business. This is query of Mr. Sandeep, Chennai. As per registration from one state required separate INS 01. Each place of business means each additional place of. Yes, yes, Mr. Sandeep. For each place of business, you need separate INS. There cannot be a blanket INS that all the 10 places of business belonging to the taxable person to be searched. No. If one place is in Dwarka, another place is in Mayur Vihar, another place is say Dholakua. In that case, you need to have separate INS for each and every location. We would like to take another query. How many years books of account are to be kept as a part of accounts package? Soft copies, GST issues notice for prior years of VAT, as well as if one dealer gets caught and all his customers are asked to submit records for the transaction done with them. Caught person, the goes beyond 8 years and forward. Sir, 72 months is prescribed under section 35. And if you are if you have a case, then you have to keep books of accounts. You have met to maintain those books of accounts till the case is concluded. So as of now, I believe that essentially you are required to maintain 72 months account. So that will be sufficient. Will the stock godown be called secreted if the stock was delivered to a random godown during transit due to transportation issues, labor issues? In that case, it will be covered under section 68 reads with section 129, because section 129 covers goods during transportation also. So it will not be treated as secreted if you have a valid invoice, valid e-waybill, and goods are still under transportation, then it cannot be treated as secreted. You can very well say to the authorities that, sir, I have a invoice and these goods are under transportation, so they cannot be treated as secreted. And moreover, it is very important to let me tell you a very important fact that only larger entities, they have day-to-day accountants who can feed the accounts on real-time basis. Whenever we find we have a petty shopkeepers, we have a small businessman whose accountants, they have a periodicity say of 10 days, 15 days, 12 days, or twice in a month. So accounts are not updated, and GST departments says that your accounts are not telling with the inventory. In that case, you can definitely say, sir, let me update my accounts. Then only I can come to the proper conclusion that what my inventory is as on date. If you have accounts accompanied by all the invoices and all the purchase and all the sale invoices, then then it cannot be presumed that there is a difference in books of account and your physical inventory. That has to be corroborated. Uh, whether at the time of whether at the time of assessment after such the assessee can call Panchnama witness to cross examination. If so, what is the procedure? Yes, very well. Uh, you can always ask for cross examination. Definitely, you can ask for cross examination. And in cases where department alleges that the supplier has given a statement that all his supply is bogus, and whereas you say that your supply is you have all the invoices and you have actually received the goods, in that case you can definitely ask for cross examination. And my version is that you should ask cross examination in all the cases whether department is granting it or not. And in 99% cases you won't get the opportunity to cross examine. However, courts in many of the judgments, courts have held that if cross examination is not given, then proceedings are vitiated, and in that case you can very well ask for cross examination. And another important question is that can call for Panchnama witness. See, Panchnama witness, if you have reasons to believe, you cannot, I believe you cannot call the Panchnama witnesses. However, in case court feels that witness are to be, their presence is required, then definitely courts can. If the goods are perishable nature, just for the previous question, in one of our searches where the witnesses were the employees of the assessee, of the taxpayer, he got an affidavit after the search was conducted he got an affidavit signed by the witness, since they were his employees, that search has been conducted in violation of the proceedings. I was not present there when stock taking was being done, and they have told that I was present at branch office also. I never went to the branch office. I was made to sign this Panchnama under coercion, and you can check the CCTVs. I was always present in the principal place of business. I never went to branch office. In that case, searches can be frustrated. Department has to follow the legal procedure. If department is not following the legal procedure, then searches can be frustrated. If the goods are perishable, what will the time? INS is showed to client who has limited knowledge, but not to us, SCA, over email or WhatsApp. What could be done? How generally can be ensured? Friends, there are difference of opinions, but as far as State Department is concerned, they definitely provide you INS. You should always ask for INS. And Section 165 of CRPC, it says that wherever a police officer, he has reason to believe that he has to make a investigation or a search, he has to record a reason. And if he is of the opinion that he cannot go for the search and he has to authorize some other officer, then that satisfaction will also be recorded. And whenever the person who is being searched, he asks for that reasons, those have to be supplied. And that section 165 is applicable in GST law also. Section 67 subsection 10 prescribes it. So INS has to be provided. In my humble opinion, INS has to be given whenever required by the assessee. You have to write it in writing and then wait. Just I think we are done with the queries, and another member from Lucknow, Mr. Rizwan, he has just mentioned his membership number, and Mr. Anand Mohan, he has thanked for the reply and presentation. So, acha, okay, Anand Mohanji has already asked the query. Fine. So, with this, we come to the end of the presentation. I would once again thank the team, our worthy chairman, our worthy vice chairman, and all the technical team, Smita madam, Impreet madam, whosoever supported me with the process, and all the technical staff, and all the members who were present in this webinar and who listened to me patiently. Thanks for your presence, and I believe that this presentation, this seminar would definitely be of great help. And in case of any help is needed, any query is needed, you can ask GST committee, and whenever I can, if I can be of any help, I will definitely try to provide the replies. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for such a fruitful insight into the topic. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Preet madam. So are we done, ma'am?
Sir, Bhargav, we can sign off for the day.